alive and it's real. Kristina's got the news, gonna tell you the deal. Grab your questions now, get ready to learn.
It's my new theme song.
To land, lots of things to discern. Welcome to the live stream.
Isn't that the greatest? I have a live stream. I think we're going to make like a little video that I'm going to play at the beginning. You guys told me you love the dancing. So the dancing is going to remain. I thought you guys hated it because occasionally I get comments that you don't like the dancing, but apparently the majority has spoken, and we like a good way of determining who likes things and who doesn't, and the majority has spoken, and they happen to like the dancing. So the dancing remains. Today, we're going to be talking about how some markets are actually flipping over to the other side of becoming a buyer's market, and other markets are still a seller's market. It's kind of the same story that we've been talking about. Just happened to come across this article, and I actually ended up finding somebody on the TikTok. I actually found her a couple years ago, but I rarely watch real estate agents, rarely. And she came across the old TikTok as I was scrolling, as we do. And I'm like, I love this girl. She is so reasonable. Her name is Anne Stewart. She's out of Portland, Oregon. And everybody, let's give Anne a very warm welcome. I'm so glad to see you.
You too.
It's so good to see you. I only usually see you in my rectangle.
Isn't that how life is these days? We're all just, connecting on the old, well, rectangle. Not the boob tube. That's what we used to say back in the old days. But now it's, what do you call this? What's the modern day boob? The what?
I call it the rectangle. Everybody's on their rectangles. That way you're not discriminating on the type of phone. Everybody's got a rectangle.
I love it.
Rectangle. So anyways, so you're out of Portland, Oregon. I have to ask you, is your housing market in a buyer's market, or is it more a level market, or is it a seller's market?
It's a little bit of everything. We're seeing it we call it weird this year because some houses are flying off the shelf and others aren't even getting showings. So
can I ask if the ones that are flying off the shelf, are they on the ones on the lower end of the buying scale, and the ones that are probably still sitting are the ones that are more expensive? Is that the case, or does it have to do with the location?
It's kind of all of the above. So yes, lower end is still moving at a very healthy clip because it's affordability. And then the higher, if you're priced, it seems like the dead zone is like $7 to $750 to like $950. So you got to be priced way ahead of the market in those areas in that price zone, or you have to have something really unique about your house. Otherwise, you can just sit and have lots of price reductions.
So your low end home is our super high end home.
I know. It's ridiculous. And everything above like 1.5 million is selling at a pretty good pace because they're not as affected by interest rates. So our upper end is actually after this, I'm showing three back-to-back buyers, $2 million house, one of my listings. So some of those can so the upper end's moving at a pretty good, healthy rate, but down below, we're seeing a lot of suffering.
Oh, well.
Suffering succotash.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I saw a glimmer of hope for some people that have been living in areas that were so expensive for rent. So I saw an article about Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And for the first time, they're offering discounts on rent because they sold so much. So the landlords are starting to offer rent reductions for people to stay in their facilities. That's a breath of fresh air for some people that live out there, because boy, oh boy, those rents got ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and Austin went bananas during the last few years. And now I heard that they're just stacking. They have 10 times more inventory now than they did even a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is. I'll have to talk to Jeremy Knight. I don't know if you know who that is. He's out of Austin. because a lot of times the headlines are not really what's going on.
Yeah.
But they definitely have a lot more inventory, but they were building. Like the writing was on the wall
Yeah.
before this. Well, as soon as this started and all these houses were flipping, like moving that quickly in Austin and the prices were going up so high, you could already look at the new construction in the area and you're like, this is a recipe for disaster. I
Yeah.
saw it in Orlando back in my day, in 2006, 2007, that was the same story. Neighborhoods were going up like popcorn and they were selling so fast. And then
Yeah.
it was like somebody walked outside one day and pulled the plug out. And then all of a sudden, nothing was selling.
Yeah.
And that's when we moved. I'm like, we got to get out of here before it gets worse. Thank God we did, because we would have lost over $100,000 in equity.
Ugh.
And I mean, but that's what happens when you live in an area that has a lot of new construction. But if you live in other areas that don't have a lot of new construction, do you have a lot of new construction?
So something to know about Portland is we are, I think, 1 out of 2 in the country that have an urban growth boundary, which actually keeps us from building and sprawling like, Arizona, Texas. I saw the writing on the wall too. I saw that pre-2008 recession, but we can't build fast enough because we're held into this, invisible circle around Portland. So every 6 to 10 years, they expand it. So by the time we get to the point where we can actually build new construction, we're behind already. So that actually keeps our home prices pretty healthy, but it also hurts us because we don't have enough housing for everybody. And it just swells the prices.
Oh, gotcha. So you're the likelihood of your market going to a full-on like recession or crash is pretty low then.
Really low. Really low. Yeah.
So where I live, it's like a country little area. We've had a lot more new construction, but what happened at the same time as the real estate boom was we had a pause in construction because of we have water drainage problems.
Oh.
So even with the new neighborhoods that were going in, the older neighborhoods started flooding because they didn't mitigate the drainage correctly. So a lot of neighbors were really upset. So in order for new construction to start again, they had to like meet all these regulations and all these, like they had to go back through and make sure that the water problem.
Wow. Is that because you guys have high water tables in general?
We are below sea level.
In all of Louisiana, or just
I'd say 1/3 of the bottom of the state is below sea level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I just happen to be in an area that has a low risk of flooding. But even if you're in a low risk area in this part of Louisiana, if you don't get flood insurance, you're kind of silly,
And when you say so high water table, does that mean you guys are like sump pumps and stuff? Or are we talking like?
Well, like if you're in New Orleans, they're way below sea level. So they're like in a bowl. So anytime it goes like this. So they have, of course, a whole pumping system, right?
Yeah.
But where we live, it's we have bayous and lakes and everything else, and we're just so low that like we can't dig a basement. So you're just going to fill it. It fills up with water. So you just have to be a little bit careful when you're building. And a lot of times what people would do to even mitigate that was they would take all this dirt and they'd put it up like this. So you see these houses that are on this road that's completely flat. And all of a sudden you see this one house that's built on this huge hill. They put a stop to that too. The other solution, of course, is to put everything on piers, which they used to do for years, but that's expensive,
Yeah.
And so they started putting everything. I don't mind it. I think it's like the way that they decorate them and everything. It's really beautiful. Okay. I honestly think a lot of our problems with flooding would be solved if they just put those damn houses on piers. But you can build houses faster, cheaper if you just stick them on a slab. So that's why it stays, So anyway, we're like rambling on.
I know.
We're not talking about the article. Let's go ahead and get into the article. Did you see it, by the way?
I did. I saw both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Eddie's going to put it on the screen. Not the one about fraud. We're going to talk about that one too, because a subscriber sent me this one and he wanted us to talk about the real estate fraud that's going on. So, all right,
Yeah.
defining a buyer's market isn't always a little bit tricky. Real estate experts say 4 signs to monitor. So this is like if you're trying to monitor your market, these are the signs that they say that you need to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
La 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 la. All right. Even as home prices hit new highs, experts say there are signs that the housing market is becoming better for buyers in some locations. The median cost of existing single-family homes in the United States is $426,900. That's the answer to the poll, everybody. It's a new all-time high, according to the National Association of Realtors. Going to say that correctly. About 3.8 million homeowners were in June at a 5.4% decrease from May to NAR found. I did not read that correctly, but whatever. Well, mortgage rates have declined from May peak. Borrowing costs remain expensive for buyers. The average 38-year fixed rate mortgage U.S. nudged up to 6.78% from 6.77 on Thursday, according to Freddie Mac data via the Federal Reserve. 30-year fixed rate mortgage in the U.S. is at 6.78, according to this chart. And I think we're going to see it come down real soon.
Yeah.
What do you think? I think,
well, they told us, I mean, I read an article that said they're 100% going to give us a interest rate reduction in September. So I don't usually believe them when they tell us that they're going to give us an interest rate reduction anymore. But when they say 100%, I feel like they're guaranteeing it. But
well, sometimes they like to mess with us just to see what happens.
Right.
All right. All right. Does that doesn't mean it's a buyer's market. The term buyer's market is always tricky to work with. Chen Zhou of the Economist Research Lead at Redfin, online real estate brokerage, there are rules of thumb to define a buyer's market, like having more than 4 months of supply, she said. I always said it was 6 months supply. Well, I think 4 months is a healthy market.
I have, in our area at least, I haven't seen 6 months of inventory since the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. But in talking to my colleagues and just seeing what's going on in our area, I tell a lot of sellers, if you don't get an offer in that first 2 or 3 weeks, it turns into a buyer's market on you.
Okay. So Eddie, could you scroll up again, please? Because you kind of skipped over the part I wanted to read next. All right. That doesn't mean that the buyer's market. All right. I already said that. The market is certainly tilting towards buyers, I would say, but it's not coming more into balance. Things are better, but they're not great yet. Mm-hmm. And I bet you if you live in like Austin, you think things are getting better. But if you live in Portland, you're like, okay.
Right.
Well, we're still nationwide somewhat is a seller's market, but it's not a buyer's market yet. However, there's good news for buyers on the horizons. Signs for a more neutral market, which I think that's what we're in. There's still an affordability challenge at large, but those buyers who can certainly afford to purchase, they're realizing the pendulum can swing back slightly in their favor. Things are moving towards more of a neutral market. Here are 4 signs that you can help recognize if your housing market in your area is in your favor. Homes that linger on the market longer. And you can probably talk about this, but in my area, every time that their home lingers on the market for way too long, there's always one big problem. And that is the sellers are unrealistic with their price. And they started off with being unrealistic. So what is your take on that? Yeah.
No, I mean, it always comes down to price. It just does. I mean, of course, condition can play a factor. Somebody could come to market with the wrong condition, but assuming you have, market condition, oftentimes like I talk about this all the time. It's like the kiss of death to start too high anymore. You used to be able to kind of play with that price a bit, but the market's not being generous in that way anymore.
Yep. This is about 64% of homes that were on the market in June have been listed for over 30 days, up 59.6% from a year ago. Homes that are sitting on the market for slightly longer because mortgage rates and prices are slightly still generally high for buyers. 30 days on the market is not terrible.
No,
60 days on the market is not terrible. Now, when you're getting over like into the 90s, then you really need to be.
Yeah. 60 days is uncomfortable around here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world, but you start getting to 90 days and you need to get some adjustments made quickly.
If nothing's moving and nobody's showing your house and it's
Right.
been 60 days, then your
Yeah.
price too high. It goes back to the same thing. Your price too high. Buyers are backing out is number 2.
Yeah, that's a big one. Big.
Do you have that problem in Portland?
Yeah, actually, my escrow officer told me that this is the highest level of terminations they've seen ever in the Portland area.
What is the cause of them terminating?
You know, it's of course it's a few. I really think it's buyer confidence. You know, I think a lot of times they're feeling the pinch and getting into contract and the cost of everything, and then if there's anything deficient about the house, it just shuts them down. And I think a lot of buyers are hitting the affordability wall right now. That's my general consensus. I think they feel like they're paying too much for the house, the payment, and then if there's anything else that they see, it's just, yeah, they're just not tolerating a lot.
Could it be because of insurance?
Oh, yeah. Insurance definitely is playing into things too. Yep.
So are you like here in Louisiana, our insurance doubled. Is that the same thing that's going on in Portland?
So no, but what I have noticed just even recently is that we've never seen this happen before, but insurance agents are now pulling clue reports on houses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of coming back to bite some sellers. I literally just had this on 2 transactions back to back where the seller didn't disclose they had an insurance claim, because a lot of people forget that stuff. They, file a claim and it gets fixed and they're on with their life. And there's nothing necessarily in the disclosures that is prompting them to say, hey, did you file an insurance claim? Although I think that is coming actually. But the insurance agent who's getting the insurance for the house is telling the new buyer, oh, by the way, they had a $35,000 insurance claim 3 years ago. They come and ask us about it. Then the seller's like, oh yeah, I did. Well, now they're paying more for the insurance because there was a claim on the house. And it didn't kill the 2 transactions, but one of them, it got very, the buyer was very suspicious of the seller not disclosing it. The seller's like, I did not intend to not disclose it. It just didn't cross my mind. And he sent over all the documentation and all that stuff. But I told the seller, I said, it's costing the buyer more money to buy your house now because you've had a claim on the house. So, and they're also being very scrupulous with how old is the roof? What kind of plumbing does it have? And so we're facing insurance pushback, almost like an appraisal, where it's like we're kind of holding our breath a little bit. Like, what's the insurance person going to say? And are they going to get, crazy pricing?
So everybody needs to know this, and I forget about this all the time. So every house, just like a Carfax, has something that's like a clue. It's called a clue report. And so anything that has been filed on your house stays with your house forever. So, if you've gone through 5, buyers through that house, 5 owners over the years, that everything that has been filed under insurance is in that clue report. So just know that ahead of time. So if you feel like they're withholding information, the sellers haven't disclosed a fire in the attic or something like that, you can contact the insurance company and say, hey, is there been a claim for a fire on this house? You can ask. So just know that ahead of time. I keep forgetting about those, but they are valuable, especially in this day and age. So, all right, that was number 2. So scroll down to number 3, please, my love. Eddie's my love is Eddie in the background. So everyone doesn't know I'm like flirting with the guy. Well, I can say I'm flirting with the guy in the background. Sellers have more competition. Well, that goes without saying. If there's more listings on the market, there's more competition, right?
Yeah, I can speak to that for a minute, especially when it comes to new construction. So while we don't have a ton of new construction, we do have new construction. And we're finding that in the areas where the new construction is sitting, they're offering crazy buy downs, like 4.99%. And they're getting all the buyers because they're able to offer cheaper payments.
Offer cheaper payments, offer the fact that it is new, offer the fact that they can upgrade stuff. They're given closing costs. Yeah, I've seen the gambit, especially in areas that have a lot of new construction. I'm sure
it would be interesting to talk to somebody from like Texas or Arizona or wherever there's like just too much inventory, and what are the builders doing right now?
From the people that I've talked to in those areas, they're giving closing costs, they're doing buy downs, and they're offering upgrades. So they're
just throwing the kitchen sink.
And so,
Wow.
like some builders wouldn't like, they would not give certain appliances, like it is not required to give them a refrigerator or a washer and dryer, right? And
Yeah.
now they're giving the refrigerator and the washer and dryer,
Wow. Just
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, everything. So, yeah. So the total inventory registered at the end of June was 1.32 millions, up 3.1% from May, and 23% from a year ago. Unsold inventory is at a 4.1 month supply, up from 3.7 in May, and 3.1 from a year ago.
Wow.
But I mean, to me, it's like 6 months. Okay, sellers are cutting prices. There's, to me, I don't know. In my area, they're still holding on to that price. They'll hold steady until they get somebody.
Oh,
For
really?
for a few years, home sellers have been at advantage of selling their homes for more than what they bought it for because valuations skyrocketed, compounded with the fact that homes were at a very low supply for a long time. Sellers are having to do it a little bit more to entice buyers. So if sellers that are cutting their prices, what else are they doing to incentivize home buyers? What do they put in the MLS?
I am seeing some sellers offering closing cost concessions, for buy down amounts, big ones like 15,000 or so. At the end of the day, I mean, honestly, the price is the most key thing that
Right.
if they can't, sometimes it's hard because they could offer closing costs, but if the price isn't right, then the buyers aren't seeing it anyway, or they're not seeing enough value there. They expect that house to be at a lower value and with closing costs. And that's the hard part with some of the sellers to understand, is that they may have to be priced below what their expectation is, as well as offering something to compete in order to get that next buyer. Because there's some areas in our area that there's not even like pendings, so it's like the very next buyer that shows up, you better bring everything you got and be
you're gonna be cooking cookies. You're gonna have them come out with the red carpet.
Well, and even in showing feedback, like a year and a half ago, I mean, showing feedback was much gentler. Nowadays, I'm hearing like the buyers are just picking apart the houses like to death. Even good ones that are like in the best shape they can be for maybe the age of the home. They're just not tolerating a lot anymore. It's kind of staggering.
You're gonna have to pay that top dollar for a house. You have expectations of a home.
And here's something else. There's a lot of buyers that are doing this thing where they're sitting on the fence and they're waiting for like the house they like to see if it goes down. And then when it goes down, they show back up for a showing, or their agent calls the listing agent, and they check in, and all of a sudden then they write the offer to the next price reduction. Have you heard of that? Like they know it's not going to sell at the next price, so they write it even further down. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you the dumbest. If you're in the process of buying a house, please don't do this. So the house, we're just going to give an example. The house was $200,000, and these people were first time home buyers, and they wanted I'm just going to make it easy, round numbers. And they wanted $10,000 in closing costs for their concessions to buy this house. A lot of money. Seller said, no, the house is still $200,000. We're willing to give you $5,000 in concessions. So they were like, well, no, what we'll do is we'll do $10,000, and we can, like, they were trying to do all these funny financing kinds of things, like to get the house. Basically, it all came down to they were trying to squeeze the sellers out of $10,000. So I was like, well, we'll just make the house $205,000 because they're going to do, 10, that will give the $10,000 in closing costs. They were like, but I don't want to pay $5,000 more. I'm like, you need the $10,000. The sellers need their bottom line. They're like, but we're giving them $5,000 extra. I'm like, actually, you're not. They're still making the same amount of money, and they could not get it through their heads. They couldn't get it through their heads.
It's hard to get the mentality of a buyer right now and a seller on the same page. It really is.
Yeah. Sometimes I had to actually draw it, once I drew once I like put the numbers in front of them, like I drew it out on a piece of paper and like did the math on the bottom, they were like, oh, I'm like, you're not giving them $5,000 more. It's all going to work out. Okay. Yeah. So Shauna says, question, will prices and interest rates drop in Florida anytime soon? Well, it depends on where you are in Florida. I have seen some areas have some good price reductions, but other areas are still remaining still. The biggest problem for Florida is the fact of the insurance problem. And that problem is getting worse and worse and worse as the days go by. Because as new carriers come in, they're requiring different kinds of insurance, including, extra wind and hail damage insurance. And they're requiring that you have flood insurance, even though you're not in a flood zone. And it's gotten very expensive. So anybody that's buying brand new, that will cut into their payment. So as far as interest rates, they're nationwide, even though they're adjusted for the state. We're going to see hopefully in September that interest rates come down. That's my feeling. That's my I have this crystal ball. It's my crystal ball prediction. Somebody, I don't know, I think Eddie bought this for me, crystal ball, so I can predict the future. I wasn't sure. Maybe a subscriber gave it to me, but I'm pretty sure Eddie bought that for me. All right. It says, question, how do you get a loan to purchase a house that needs work to make it livable? What are those called? Those 203K?
Oh, yeah. 203K.
Yep.
FHA 203K.
Yep. FHA 203K. We do them all the time here in Louisiana. After there's a flood, people don't want to, like, they basically total the house, but that's still the shell of the house. Then flippers will come in, or somebody will come in and they'll do that 203K loans. Yeah. They're pretty popular here. Okay. Because they're popular here, it's easier for the lenders to understand what to do. But when you're in another state and something like this happens, it's not a common product. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot longer for the lenders to know what to do for that specific loan. So if you're doing something like that, don't get frustrated with the lender, because they're probably learning how to do this specific loan and do it correctly. Because when this happened here in Louisiana, at the beginning, it was a kind of a nightmare. But then as lenders started doing them, a practice makes perfect. And so, yeah. Yep. Charlton Zimmerman says, question. Oh, by the way, welcome to the stream, Charlton. You're here every week and I appreciate you coming in. It says, when the Fed drops the rates to 0.25% or 5% or 0.5% in September, will that help sales? It all has to do with consumer confidence as far as I'm concerned. What do you say?
I agree with that. I think so. Anytime an election year happens, especially the run up to it, a lot of people lose confidence because it's very uncertain. And that's why they drop the interest rates, is because they're trying to keep people moving through the uncertainty, and they want to make the economy look good. And, they want that last little run before you vote to feel like, oh, the housing market's doing great.
Yeah, so, everything's great.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, we're fine. Everybody's fine. Mentally stable. Fine. Everything's fine.
Burning down, but whatever. Buy a house.
It's time to buy a house. Yeah, they do that every time. And that will all come down to consumer confidence. Yeah. If you had done that same kind of percentage rate drop 3 months earlier, that would make people buy houses like crazy. They would have gone nuts. Yep. But if the closer you get to the election, more and more people are going to be sitting on the edge of their seat and on the fence, as far as I'm concerned.
They're going to be teased. A lot of people are going to be teased back into the market because they're going to say, oh, okay.
So the house is going to be like, hey, come on inside.
That's pretty much it.
The water's fine.
That's right. That's like, here, kitty, You're like putting the food bowl out for the buyers at that point,
Yeah.
But yeah, we're interest rate driven, it's like, the pheromones get out and, people start coming out of the woodworks, and, it will create a little bit more of a buying, a little bit more of a surge, but How much it just, who knows? I mean,
I always find that this time of year creates a different kind of buyer, which is the buyer that's testing the market. How low will they go? And
yeah,
so you get that buyer that comes in and he will make, or she will make offers that are so ridiculously low that they're trying to test it and they don't even care
yeah.
that they lose it. It's like, I
Yep,
want a
that's a great
deal.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
I
want a
know that
deal.
buyer well.
Yeah, we all have them, and it always
Yeah.
happens during the election year. They come out and they're wanting to see how uncertain people are in their area, and they're trying to find the person that's super scared so they
Yeah.
can get themselves a hell of a
Well,
deal.
and likewise, I have some clients that are they're waiting to put their house on the market till the next month because they're like, oh, interest rates are coming down. That means I'm going to do better on my house.
Mhm.
So just like the buyers are kind of sitting on the fence, some of the sellers are even doing that, thinking that, if they time this right, they might be able to get more money.
I don't know what this question is. It says, question, is the Pacific Northwest?
I'm from there. What do you have a question on?
Yeah, that's where she's
And
in.
Busy Lizzie.
Yeah. Miss Dizzy Lizzie. She's but Anne's in Portland.
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
My brother was stuck at that airport during that whole debacle with Delta.
Oh, well, that's not a
He
bad
was
airport to be stuck at.
That was terrible.
Oh,
He was
yeah. I wouldn't
oh,
want to be stuck there, but if you're going
he
to be
was
stuck at an airport, it's better to be stuck at a Portland airport. Just, good food options.
well, he wasn't going to stay inside there. He got out of there and then he went to get a hotel and it was miserable. He's like, this is the worst place ever.
I just was so glad I wasn't traveling.
Yeah, he was. He was coming back from Hawaii and I was like, why didn't you stay in Hawaii? Oh no, Delta has it all straightened out. I'm like, no, they don't. And then he got to Portland and he was like, they don't have it straightened out. I'm like, I
Oh,
told you so.
brutal.
Nobody listens to me. Olga says, Florida homes tripled in price in the last 5 years. We can't afford them. Prices have to go down. I've seen this happen in Florida. This is what happened in Florida when Eddie and I lived there. We bought this little house that needed a ton of work. Our very first home, we bought it for $135,000 with a 7.5 interest rate. It was an FHA loan, and we fixed up that house. And then the real estate market went bizarre. I mean, totally bizarre. And at the top of the market, it hit 350,000. And I'm like crying because I'm like, we couldn't afford this house. And this house, in my opinion, and I own it, is not worth 350,000. Granted, we had done everything to this house. I mean, it was a shell of a house, but there was no way that it was worth that amount of money. But as quickly as it went up like that, it felt like a rock. But we had a ton of new construction in the area that offset those prices. That poor guy who bought our house, he bought it for like, I think 235. And then I think he ended up being able to renegotiate his mortgage at 189. But then it's back up again. Now it's like 350 again. It's 350,000. And it was like a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nothing house. I mean, concrete block built in the late 80s.
But that's what it is. It's like, I mean, I look around, I think that's going for how much, the starter homes.
I mean, we were like this close to our neighbor. Like I could literally hand a plate over to my neighbor and she hated me. So we weren't handing anything across the, she got mad because my landscaping. I had these runners that had gone over in her side and she would just go out there and take her shovel. And then one time she said that we were dumping leaves on her side of the line. I'm like, are you out of your mind? We have trees. Neighbors suck, man. Neighbors just suck.
Especially bad ones.
Yeah. Peggy says, I own a property with a trailer, water, septic, electric, and all. I want to replace the trailer with a modular home. Does getting a modular home fit into this discussion? We could talk about it. Absolutely. This is right up my alley. So I want you to be very careful, Peggy, when you're going out and looking at modular home companies, because what happens, and it's become a thing now, because federal regulators want to put out more inventory of homes. And they know the fastest way to do that is with manufactured housing. They're wanting to put out HUD manufactured homes, which are built to HUD federal guidelines. They're good homes. They're perfectly fine homes, except for the fact they're not built to the same specification as a true modular home. A true modular home is built to the same specifications as a traditional built home. Sometimes, in most cases, it's better than traditional built homes. And what they're saying is this is a hybrid of manufactured modular homes, which it's not. So a lot of people in their mind think that they have a modular home, but it's a HUD built home. It's federal HUD homes. They just took the chassis off, and they're calling it it's like a bi mod, and what they're really saying is modern, but everybody interprets that mod term as modular, but it's not a modular. It's a HUD home. a cross mod. That's what they're calling it. A cross mod. So the consumer immediately thinks, oh, it's a cross between a modular and a manufactured house, which it's not. A cross mod is meaning cross modern, not cross modular. It's a sales technique that they're using on people to buy I'm not saying inferior product, but not the product that they think that they're buying. So they end up putting it on the land, and when they go to sell it in the future, they say, I have a modular home. And then us as real estate agents pull up everything that's in that house, because you can see that it's not. And even though it's not on the chassis, but it still has a sticker inside. So in your electrical panel or in your one of the cabinetries, you'll see a whole sticker of the specifications of this house that has to remain with the house, by the way. You can't just rip that off in order to sell it. But it clearly says that this is a HUD certified home. And so people are getting deceived, and they're really upset about it. So in some cases, you can't even refinance them.
Wow.
So yeah, but yes, you can totally do a modular home. You already have the setup and everything. That's half the battle. Land preparation. People buy these really cheap houses online, and then they don't realize, they got a $50,000 house online, and they think that, oh, well, I've done most of the work on this. Then they go in to get electricity, the clearing of the land, and all the utilities. Then ends up costing triple of what the house cost. So that's where all your money goes. You already beat that. You're good to go. Go ahead and get yourself a modular, true modular, because then it's the same as a traditional house, but better. So that Anne doesn't do that. That's not Anne's specialty.
New.
Yeah, that's not Anne's specialty. That's why I kind of like bulldozed over her. Sorry, Anne.
Oh no, not at all.
The creative frugal fun. That sounds awesome. I'm frugal too. What is up with insurance? Have you had to pay extra for water damage, i.e. frozen pipes or anything? I just renewed, and one wanted $1,000 more, totally separate from the flood and not in a flood area. I don't know what it is in Portland, but here in our area, they say that we are in a higher risk area, and that it's going to continue to go up as we have more tragic weather events, because that's affecting the cost of replacement. And of course, the cost of replacing things has gone up too. So that's why they're saying, because of the it's a climate change, that we're seeing more storms, the replacement cost is so much more. They have to keep increasing insurance costs. Yeah. I mean, but the screwed up part is that, these are risk assessment companies, and all of a sudden they whap everybody with this double price. I was paying $2,400. Now I'm paying $4,800. What? Yeah. What? Like, how can you do that? Like, all of a sudden, like, oh, we just didn't know this was coming. That is such horse crap. Yeah. I don't know. But, people can, if you're in that situation, you can adjust some of your like deductibles and stuff. So like my replacement cost for interior stuff, was too high. So I brought that down. The replacement cost of the house was actually valued at the price of the house if I was to sell it. And I'm like, but I have the land. It's not going to cost that much to replace the house. So I reduced that. You can make some adjustments, work with your insurance provider there in your area to see how you can make some adjustments to make that insurance a little bit lower.
I think something people should do. I know we just started in the last year. We checked into our homeowners insurance and realized we were paying like $4,000 a year. It went up like staggeringly. And we called our insurance agent. Long story short, we got it down to like $2,000 a year. But just the fact that it like converted automatically to $4,000 a year was like, I don't know if they're just doing that, but it's not a bad idea to check. If you have insurance, call and find out what it is and if it's planning on changing. And like you said, just do you need all that insurance? What is it covering? You know, and we have one of the cheaper insurance in the country because we don't have major natural disasters. I mean, we have a flood every 50 years, but we don't have like, other than some areas outside of Portland may be under fire watch because there are a lot more fires in Oregon, but usually southern, eastern, but we don't really have too many natural disasters here to worry about. But, you know, still we have insurance issues just because I think insurance is a problem for everybody nowadays.
If you like start reading anything about insurance, what most people are spending too much money on is being overinsured. Most people are way, way overinsured.
Yeah.
So anyway, yep. And Clark, the realtor, says, call your insurance agent. Yes. Call your insurance agent. That is correct. Clark, the realtor. He's also a moderator here. He's great. Muddy Sneakers 77. Could you, the U.S. home prices become like Canadian prices, continually going up? Wall Street has no incentive to lower prices because mortgage-backed securities are tied up in pension funds. This is true. And we've been sounding the alarm for quite some time. Could they end up like Canadian prices? The only thing that I think really separates us from Canadian markets is the way that we do our mortgage system. So they have to refinance all the time. You know, there's like, I think it's like a 5-year window. Isn't that correct? I'm not 100% sure on how Canadian mortgages work, but they have to refinance. You don't get that glorious 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So there's going to be people that buy out their mortgage, you know, and stay in there for a lifetime. I can't see the prices hitting as high as they have in Canada, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. We have a long way to go with our housing market. And as everybody knows, home prices are in a lot of areas unsustainable. Austin, Texas is a perfect example of how unsustainable that is.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I've seen other markets, and I actually talk about this in my next video. So if you ever look at like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, of all places, right?
Yeah.
So their prices have quadrupled. So people that have grown and lived there and everything else, they can't afford to live there anymore because their property taxes have gotten so high. But then the people that do live there, which are the billionaires, have now kicked out the millionaires.
Yeah.
So now it's even worse. But in those same areas, they have to run businesses.
You know what? I can speak to this.
Go ahead.
I don't have that kind of wealth, but I have a family member who invites us every year to Colorado in the very nice, like, you know, Vail, Beaver Creek. They've got a place there, whatever. They have absolutely had that problem. The service people can't afford to live there anymore. Like they call it, like, even the trailer parks, like we drive by a trailer park, they call it like millionaire trailer park because you have to be a millionaire now to buy into it. Correct. And they shove like 5 or 6 workers into a trailer or a mobile home just so they can all split the rent. And the biggest problem they have right now in those areas, because we go every year with them, and it's like the service people are they can't find them, you know? And they said that is the biggest problem they have, is like, it's up in the mountains, right? So there's only so many places to live. It's just the cost of living and the rents. So.
And then they'll claim, they'll go, you know, nobody wants to work anymore. We're offering $22 an hour for people to work out here. And I'm like, if you
math ain't mathin'.
Well, if you work 40 hours a week at $22 an hour, that still doesn't cover basic necessities in that area. Like, find an apartment that you split with somebody, that's still not enough. Yeah. You would have to live in a low rent area and split it with 5 other people in order to be able to live at $22 an hour in your area. So, I mean, if we continue down that path, that's where we're going to be. We're going to have people living in houses and combined living together.
The other channel. It's
the other channel. I
have 2 YouTube channels.
What's your other
Portland
one?
Portland Life.
Portland Life is her second one. This was my mistake.
All good. We have 2 channels, you know.
I know, man. You're much more ambitious than I am. I can't do 2 channels. I guess everybody was looking for you. Oh, do you have to run to your clients?
I do. I would love
Yes.
to continue this conversation, but I do have to go.
You guys, she's on TikTok. If you're not on TikTok, follow her on TikTok. She's one of my, like, I'm telling you, I don't listen to real estate agents, but I do listen to Anne. And if you want to go over and support one of her channels, go ahead. What was the second one again?
Okay, so my TikTok is at Real Estate with Anne, at Real Estate with Anne. And my YouTube channel that we put out content every week on Portland Life. It's called Portland Life. Here, I will try to see if I can put this in there for
look,
you.
Is that it? There you go. Is that it right there on the screen? Portland Life. There it is. We got it up on the screen.
Cool.
Yeah, we got it. Yay. You and your friend?
Team member Erica. Yep.
Team member Erica.
Team member Erica.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, Anne, good luck on your showing today. I appreciate you.
Yep, hit us up.
All right, now it's just us. Now we can talk about each other. Now that Anne's gone, let's talk about her. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to play a little game at the bottom. I'm going to put some trivia questions, and they're just for fun. I know that the poll today was some trivia questions. Eddie will pull it up, but we have some trivia questions that we're going to be with there. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, I didn't catch it. By what percentage did home sales decrease in June compared to May? A being 3.4%, B being 4.4%, C being 5.4%, and D being 6.4%. Clark says you're being silly. Yes, I know. I can't help myself. But when she said we're going to tease the market, I could not help myself. I was really restraining myself. Eddie, you're going to tell us the right answer? Eddie's going to end up putting the right answer on the screen. I sent him the answers. I think it is 4.5%. I think, if I remember correctly. A, B, or C. We got Clark, the realtor, says C. Peggy's saying C. All right, what's the correct answer, Eddie? You know, whenever remember that whenever you didn't know the answer for a test, you always put C. I did that one time because I was sick. I had the flu and I had to take the ACT, and I just sat there and just bubbled in C all the way down. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C. Thank you, Edward. Vanessa has a question. It says, if I buy a home now, should I or should I wait? Oh, Vanessa, this is actually the number one question that's asked every single stream. And the thing is that I want you to make yourself a pros and cons list. Like, what is the advantages of you buying a house now, and what are the disadvantages? Then I want you to look at your monthly income and bills and really be honest with yourself if you can afford a payment for a house. And then I want you to go talk to a mortgage broker, but I don't want you just to talk to one mortgage broker. I want you to talk to a minimum of 3 so they can tell you some different kinds of loan packages. If you happen to be a first-time home buyer, I want you to ask those mortgage brokers if there's any incentives for first-time home buyers. Is there any bond money that's out there that could be offered to you? Is there something that can help you get into your first home? But I can't tell you what you should do with a house. But I will say this: if you don't plan on staying in that house for at least 5 years, please don't buy a house. Please don't buy a house. A house is an expense. And if you are just planning on living there for a couple years, then that expense is not going to be worth it to you. Lori says, question, thanks for sharing your experiences. Home buyer here. Any insights about the North Carolina market? Too narrow in the future near Raleigh. You know what? I need to get somebody from North Carolina on here. Do you know who I'll get? I have a friend who was in North Carolina and now is in South Carolina. That is Sir Ashley. And I will ask him to come back on this channel. He's one of my favorite real estate agents, probably the smartest real estate agent I've ever met. And he's also an attorney. So we can ask him some legal advice about the real estate market too. I'll have him on here. I don't know enough about it personally to give my 2 cents about it. But I will have him on here. Whip out the crystal. She wants me to whip out the crystal ball, Woo. And he loves using that crystal. There's a sound. Oh, Debbie says there's some poll results that came in. Says the poll results so far are with 321 votes is 400,000 at 19%. 426.9 is at 42%. You guys were listening. 450%, 450,000, that was at 20%, and 475,000 was at 19%. You guys are so smart. You guys are so smart. Yeah, it's 426,900. That is what the median price home for it costs today. Did you know? Oh my God! Since we're did you know that the average age to buy a house today? I'm going to ask you guys. Do you know what the average age to buy a house today is? Because when I was a kid, it was in your 20s. So what do you think is the average age to currently buy a home? I'm interested to see what you say. We love you and Sir Ashley together. I love Sir Ashley. He's a smart dude. Like, honestly, because sometimes I go on these tangents and I get kind of wild and everything, and he laughs at me, but then he brings me back to the ground. He's like, well, this is how it really is. And I'm like, oh, I think I got scolded at, but I didn't know it. So, 40. No, not 35. No, 36. Miss Kitty Cat Queenie, 36 years old. 36 years old. It was like when I was young, it was like 24, and then it was like between 24 and 26. And I felt like I was behind because we bought our first house and I was 28 years old. I was like, oh, we're so behind because we didn't buy it when we were 24. And the reason being is when the houses are starting at median price home in the United States is at over 400,000. It's really difficult for someone in their 20s to be able to afford that. Not many people have jobs that would be able to afford that price home. Jennifer says, I lived in Raleigh for 9 years and the market is slowing a little bit. The new homes are around 600. It's insane. Yeah. $600,000 for a starter home. But you know what? The builders are like, people say, well, the builders are only building really expensive houses. They don't have a choice. They really don't, because the cost to put together the land itself was super expensive. So they have to make that money back because they're usually holding on that land for a long period of time before they ever were able to build those houses. So to get the best return on their business, on their money, on their dollar, they're going to have to build those more expensive, bigger houses. So, wow. Anyways, Dan in the Dirt, love that screen name, says, we are in our 40s buying our first home. Eddie and I joke, but it's like terribly sad. We couldn't afford the house that we live in right now. Like if we were to go shopping for houses right now, if we didn't own a house, there's no way we could afford this house. Like, I mean, we could have qualified for it, but I mean, we would be financially strapped trying to afford the house payment, especially with the interest rates the way they are. We can't afford the house that we live in. That's the same thing that happened in Orlando. When we sold that, I'm like, we can't, if we were to buy this house today, we couldn't afford to live in it. We couldn't do it. It's crazy. Miss Melanated says, what regular working person can do? What can a working? I'm not going to tell you to, tighten up your bootstraps and budget better, blah, blah, blah. But some of the things, like, I'll tell you to help save you some money, because these are the things that I do I've been doing recently because things have gotten so expensive. I didn't realize how many stupid subscriptions I am a part of. Like, there's so many things that I'm like, oh, it's only $5, and it constantly bills me. But all those little $5 with all these tiny, stupid subscriptions that we have taken a huge chunk out of our lives, right? So I canceled a lot of those reoccurring subscriptions. That's a budgeting thing. So if you were already doing that and you cut all those things out, then you can start saving that money on other things. I am very weird about paying a lot for food. And grocery stores are designed to make you spend more money, but you can also shop their sale papers on things that go on sale. And that's how you decide what you're going to eat for the week. That's what Eddie and I do. And then not all grocery stores are the same. So Eddie and my daughter learned this lesson. They went and bought Roma tomatoes at one grocery store. Then they went to a more like a different grocery store right down the road. And everything in that grocery store was so much cheaper. So what they paid $2 for Roma tomatoes, they could have bought a whole sack of Roma tomatoes in this other grocery store. So just be very vigilant on what you're spending your money on and how much you're spending in certain areas, because you could save yourself a bunch of money as on food of all things. Like, we don't even realize how much money we dump in something that's a necessity, because you think, well, I have to have milk, I have to have food. So you just go to that one grocery store and you put all this money in there, but they're designed for us to spend as much money as possible. So if you go to the not so name brand grocery stores, you're going to find a lot better deals. We learned that lesson ourselves. So those are some ways that can help you get ahead a little bit. Miss Kitty Cat Queenie, it says, I bought my house at 36 in 2008. Well, I wouldn't have been able to buy my first house if it wasn't for my husband, because I've always worked jobs that like lenders hate, real estate agents, and having to declare their incomes and everything else with offsetting and everything. It's just easier to qualify them if you like work a job not like mine. And so if it wasn't for my husband, I wouldn't have been able to buy a house, because at the time I wasn't a real estate agent, I was a hairdresser. But it's the same kind of pay structure. You just pay a booth rental and then you have to file your taxes that way. And they're like, even though your credit's better, Kristina, we're going to use him to buy the house. And it's been that way our whole lives. They always just use his credit. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the one that put the down payment. It came out of my money. They don't care about that. Vanessa Love says, I bought my first home at 51. Congratulations, Vanessa. That's fantastic. That's a good feeling, isn't it? Like, when I bought my first home, I really honestly, I felt like this is how it feels when people win the lottery. I remember just feeling so proud of myself that we were able to buy a house. Terrified, because I'd never done anything like that, but it was just a great feeling. Leslie S says, I bought my first house at 22 back in the 90s. Yeah, I was in high school. Trap Music says it was like 30 when I was young. So I don't know how old you are now, Trap. I was 41 in 2005. Bought my first home at 44. Yeah, like I bought my first house in 31. See, it's much older though. Is it me? Don't you remember our parents saying, "Oh, we bought our first house at 20. We bought our first house at 23." Like they were in their early 20s when they were buying their first homes, because it was just not as expensive as it is now. But now everything is, how can we make money off of it? You look at anything, it's like, how can we make as much money off of this thing forever? And we've turned to houses like stocks. So Debbie and Scooter said, hi, Kristina. I love your videos. Debbie and Scooter, I love the fact that you watch my videos. Thank you very much. So when is the next crash? This is a crystal ball moment. Woo. All right, Michael, I'm going to tell you what I think. Here's my crystal ball. Yeah, there's that music. If we have a bigger economic disturbance in the fact that people are not being able to keep and save their jobs, if we see a big problem in the jobs market, you're going to see more and more people having to sell their homes because they're not going to be able to afford to maintain them or, keep up with mortgage payments. That's what I think is going to happen. So you always got to keep an eye on the jobs market, but those numbers are deceiving as well, because some people have dropped out of the jobs market for so long they're no longer counted, which I don't know why that's a thing, but that's a real thing. The second thing is that a lot of people that are considered employed, they're working part-time work, or they're working lower income jobs in order to make it. And sometimes they're working 1 or 2 or sometimes even 3 jobs in order to make it in the economy that we're in right now. We just really need to keep an eye on what's going on. So even though, the news and the papers and this, everything says one thing, your eyes do not deceive you when you're out in the world. And when you see a lot of people that in desperate situations, that is a good indication that we have something else on the horizon. So just, all I can just say is keep your eyes peeled. I'm not going to give you a specific date, time. I'm not a medium. I wish I was, because I would have predicted all sorts of things for a long time, but numbers don't lie, except for when they give you data that sucks. And when it comes to the jobs market, they've always given us data that sucks for many, many, many years. You can tilt it however you want to. We just need to really keep our eyes open and, and listen, see what's really going on it there. Kingston City says, ask Kristina about the price of mayo. I dare you. Well, at least you didn't ask about my hair. Thank God. If you want me to reclaim the story, I will tell you about my mayo. At Christmas time, I bought mayo and it was like stupid expensive. And I made Eddie send it back because I won't do it. Mark says, if the price of wood is close to an all-time low, why are starter homes still high in price? Well, it isn't just the price of lumber, right? We were following that during the pandemic. The price of lumber's going crazy. That's why home prices, for new construction are so incredibly high. There's numerous things that cause home prices, new construction, to go up in price. The biggest problem for new construction is the cost of labor. And if you want a good house built the right way, you're going to have to pay top dollar for that specific labor if they show up and if they show up on time. That is other than the actual putting the land together, the whole development of a development, the whole development of a development is cost the builders the most amount of money, is the cost of labor. The building materials is second to that. The labor is what kills them. So you would think, there's always margins for them to play with in order to bring home prices down. And they can do that. That's why they do things like offering lower interest rates, or buy downs, buy downs, so you only have to pay X amount for those interest rates, closing costs, those kinds of things, because they really don't want to take the price of the house down. They rather offer you those incentives so the price remains high and they can still can still maintain that price throughout the neighborhood. And labor costs, interest rates, labor. Yeah. Eddie said it right. Anne was such a good guest. We need to have her on again. She was great. Robert Clubb says, awesome show, my friends. Thanks again for the updates. Yeah, no problem. I'm just really excited about my new theme song, you guys. I'm gonna actually make I think I'm gonna make a whole music video. I think I'm gonna dance through the whole entire video. Oh, I think I've just come up. I'm gonna make it a musical. I'm gonna dance through the whole, and then I'll have it to my theme song. All right. Anyways, Kingsley Johnson says, when do you think the interest rates will drop? They're going to drop soon. If we look at historical data over the years, anytime right before the election, they always drop interest rates because they want the economy to look healthy before an election year to make everybody feel good. So I believe that, Anne had said earlier, who was our guest. She said September. So let's go with what Anne said. That way I'm not in trouble if anybody says anything later on. We can all blame it on Anne. Poor Anne. Oh, my camera keeps syncing. Let's see. I don't want to mess with it too much because last time I messed with it, my whole stream shut down. Let's turn it this way. There we go. There we go. So MH08 says, wait till robots can do construction. Well, I'm gonna give you a reason why robots will not take over construction. Not from what I can see. We're looking down the road a little bit. So I know you guys know about 3D printed houses, right? Those are all built with a robot printing machine. And the biggest problem with those are, and why we haven't seen tons of them, because they were supposed to take over the construction industry, is the weight of that printing machine is extremely expensive. Costs a lot of money to ship it, and you have to ship it correctly. It has to stay level the whole entire time. As you know, ground shifts, right? And any kind of any weather, inclement weather that comes through that will cause the print to come off, then you have a house that's like tilted this way. You know how I'm talking about. Like when you print a piece of paper and there's the paper isn't in right, then all of a sudden then your whole thing's like this. It's the same thing with 3D printed houses. Robots still need to be run by some kind of engineering team to back up what they're doing. Engineers that run those robots are going to want to get paid. So that is an expense, right? Just saying. I don't see the robots taking over the construction industry, not immediately soon. There's going to be a time that things will change, but I don't see it anytime in the near future, near future. Stop messing with things. This is my friend who lives in a van. Him and his girlfriend are traveling all through the UK. They are in Ireland, and they have sold their whole entire life and decided to get into a van and travel all over Europe. I'm jelly. I'm super jelly. He also helps me with my editing, so I appreciate it. Nice to see you, Mr. Neil. So with that, everybody, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the stream. We had over 350 people here on the stream at one time. I want to say thank you to Anne one more time for spending time with us today. Anything you would like to talk about next week on the stream, let me know. And I'm going to be working on a music video for you guys to watch next week for our new theme song that I've created. So thank you so much to our moderators for spending your Sunday with me, keeping the chat clean. And don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. Eddie, can you key in the music? Oh, he wants me to talk about the website. If you need to get a hold of me, hit one of the pink buttons on KristinaSmallhorn.com and I'll give you a call. We'll have a conversation, you and me. Let's just talk. We're going to talk about some real estate, you and me. Talk together. And Eddie wants me to tell you about the podcast. If you want to listen to this in the car, you can go to anywhere you get your podcast. Go to Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everybody. You can listen to this as a replay, and you can listen to my new theme song. You can listen to my new real theme song. Yeah, overjoyed. Coffee talk. Every time I talk to Jackie Baker, I'm like, hello, Jackie. Hello, Jackie Baker, because I like doing that with her. But she sounds like that naturally. So anyways, thank you so much, everyone. Eddie, let's play some music on the way out. Because everybody likes my dancing. We're gonna go it. Eddie wants to make it the #1 podcast. Yeah, let's beat out Joe Rogan. Wouldn't that be something? Where's the music, Eddie? There's no music. Thank you for sharing. Voices in my